Okay, hello YouTube viewers. My name is Junior, and this is going to be my testimony. This is my first time on YouTube, so if this ain't the best video, I'm sorry, and I will get better. Um, but this is a Christian-based video, and basically I'm going to tell you my story of how I found Jesus and how he turned my life around. Well, the story starts, I was born in Texas in 1978. I lived there for about a year. My mom and my birth father, relationship wasn't that great. I lived in Texas for about a year. I moved to Arkansas in about a year old. And I was in Arkansas to about 6, and the life in Arkansas wasn't great. Like I said, parents' relationship was really bad, and that ended up in divorce, and it was just a whole bad situation. So I really didn't have a really good start. But after my mom divorced my dad, she met my stepdad, and we moved to Missouri. We were there for a couple years. Things were getting better. The whole parent thing it was getting good. And then in 1987, there was a tragic accident. I was at my mom's friend's house, and my mom was at work. She was babysitting us, and she said we could go outside and play and all that. So me and my 2 brothers and my mom's friends, 2 sons, we all went outside. And outside their house, when you go down, there's a little creek, and we started walking down the creek and just splashing in the water and throwing rocks and, you know, stuff kids do. And me, I never was the fishing guy. You know, I was always, I liked being out in the woods, just walking around, exploring and all that kind of stuff. But so back to my main story. We were out there just goofing off and messing around, and I got bored. So I said, guys, I'm gonna go head back to the house. So I started heading back up the creek, heading back towards the house. Is probably 700-800 yards, something like that. And it kind of twisted and turned, and I got about maybe 4 or 5 turns through the creek towards my mom's friend's house, and her 2 sons came splashing through the water, running as fast as they could, and they got up to me and they said that my 5-year-old little brother had been hit by a car, because at the end of the creek, there was a little over tunnel thing that kind of had concrete underneath the middle of it, and it dropped off, and there was water and stuff, and and I guess they had went under that and was playing in the water, and I guess they decided when I left they were going to follow me, so they set it heading back. And I guess my little brother decided to go up over the road instead of going under the tunnel and splashing in the water like everybody else was. and he was tragically struck by a car. So I ran back to where we were, to the scene, and I seen what was going on. There was a car parked there on the road, and I seen him laying on the road. And that was a very critical moment in my life, because I was 9 at the time. My other brother, he was 8, and then we had my littlest brother, who was 5. I don't recall who went and got the adults, but apparently somebody did. I mean, I was kind of in shock, because I was technically the oldest person there of all the kids. And so I was kind of, baffled and, struck with what had happened. And then my parents and my friends, the other boys' mother, showed up, and that's when the ambulance and all the authorities got there. And then we ended up leaving to get away from the scene. And one of my mom's friends took us to another person's house, probably 6 blocks away. And then we were sitting there, and everybody was just all quiet, and all that kind of the sad, because I didn't know if he was alive or what the deal was. Nobody told me anything. So maybe an hour or two, and then my mom and my stepdad showed up. I guess they were picking us up. And when they got there, and they told me and my other brother that my little brother Jethro had passed away. And that really had a real big effect on me. I felt like, for a long time, I felt like I was responsible, because I was the oldest, and I left, and I was the oldest, so I felt like I was in charge, and if I had stayed, I would have made him go under the road instead of go over it. And I held on to that guilt for a really long time. But family showed up. We had the funeral, and all that, and at that time I really didn't understand death. It gave me I had a real big problem with death. So I started rebelling. My school grades drastically dropped. I started stealing stuff. I started smoking cigarettes. Just anything and everything I was using to mask the pain and my guilt, or at least what I thought was my guilt. And because of all my actions, and my other brother, same story. Started rebelling. Everything was going they apparently going in a bad direction. and the death of my little brother had put a major strain on my parents' relationship, and we weren't helping matters at all with our actions. So my parents, they couldn't handle us, so they sent me and my other brother to my grandmother's in Arkansas. So I went from Arkansas to Missouri, back to Arkansas. And I was probably 13, 14 when this happened. And same thing. I got there and same action. Stealing, lying, you name it, I did it. Dirty magazines, and I got really bad. And I stayed in Arkansas for about 3 years, and at the age of 16, my other brother, who was living with my uncle, he decided he wanted to go back to Missouri, so he contacted my parents, and he went back to Missouri, and I decided to stay in Arkansas. And during this whole span, living in Missouri, after the death of my little brother, probably a year or so after that, or something like that, I was playing around outside at my house, and a church bus went by, and the guy stopped and says, "Hey, you want to go to church?" And I'm like, "I guess." And so went and asked my parents, "Hey, can I go to church?" And they said, "I don't care." So I put on some of my nicest clothes I had and jumped in the church van and went on to church. And typical church thing, you get there, "Hi, nice to meet you." Everybody greeted me, and kind of made me feel a little special. And so I went and I listened to what they said, and I was like, "Hey, in my mind I was thinking, maybe this Jesus guy that they're talking about, maybe he can help alleviate the guilt that I'm having." So they said he can heal it, he can do this, he can do that. So I thought, I'll give it a shot. And at the end of the service, they said, if anybody wants to come have Jesus and be saved and all this, he would do it. And it was basically an altar call. And so I was like, okay, I'll go get healed. I'll get rid of this, and maybe I'll start acting right. But I did, and I gave my heart to the Lord and stuff, and I only went to that church a couple times. It did not stick with me. So, jump forward, now I'm back in Arkansas, and the whole Jesus thing was a very, 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 very far in the distance thing. I was not thinking of Jesus, and I was doing anything and everything I could just to be me, I guess. And jump forward, my brother, he left at 16. At 17, I had gotten so bad at my high school, they were fixing to expel me. So it was a Friday night, and I got out of school, and I already knew from that day, my grandmother didn't know, but at that day that, the following Monday, I was going to be in some deep, deep trouble. Uh, but my brother had showed up that Friday night. I didn't know, but he showed up all of a sudden, and we got talking and stuff. And he's like, "Well, hey, you should come back to Missouri. We'll hang out, and you know, you're 17, and you're fixing to be 18. Get a job, and we'll start our life." And he's like, "Okay." So I told my grandma, "Hey, I'm heading back to Missouri. This ain't working. I'm sorry for what I did." And to this day, I don't really believe that I was sympathetic or that I meant it at the time, but I did, and that's what I told her. And so I came back to Missouri and got into drugs and got into the girls and all this, and it was not going the way I thought it would go. And so I got a job and all that, and really started getting really into the drugs, meth, coke, weed, drugs. And I was in Missouri for a couple years, and then me, my brother, and a friend of ours decided, we were getting bored, so we decided, hey, we'll go back down to Arkansas, because we lived right off of DeGray Lake there in Arkansas. We'll go hang out at DeGray Lake for the summer. We'll go get a duplex or something, an apartment down there, and we'll just hang out at the lake for the summer. And so that's what we did. We packed up our stuff. We went right back to Arkansas. Funny story. During this time, I had got back. I wasn't back a week, and one of my little cousins had shown up at the place I was at, and he was really big on me, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go to my..." It was like during Halloween, so he's like, "You want to go to my Halloween party?" So I was like, "Sure, why not?" And I was like, "Man, I gotta go back to that school. Yikes." So I showed up, and I walked into the cafeteria. They had the little carnival looking thing for the beanbag toss and all that kind of stuff. And showed up there, and I walked in. I wasn't there 5 minutes. Same principle that I had when I was there.